The family Apocynaceae is a fairly large family of 400 genera and over 4,500 species. It has a nearly global distribution aside from the northernmost regions of the world. It is commonly known as the dogbane family because some taxa used to be used as dog poisons, unfortunately. There are many ornamentals in this family and some poisonous members as well. This is one of the more common ornamentals in the family that grows in gardens around here at least, and it is called Vinca minor. I learned the common name as periwinkle, and it's kind of this evergreen, perennial, trailing ground cover that kind of has this vine-like habit. This here is plumeria, which is one of the common ornamentals in warm regions of the globe. This is Nerium oleander, just another common ornamental, usually found in the more warmer parts of the globe. So not often seen here in Colorado as an ornamental, but if you ever do some traveling, you'll probably see it. This here is Hoya, which is a common ornamental houseplant, and it is another example of a member of the group that is a vine. We also have some succulent members in this group, as seen in the genus Stapelia here. A really cool example of convergent evolution. As you can see, the vegetative portions of these plants have quite a resemblance to a cactus or some members of the Euphorbiaceae. So as you can see, we have quite a diversity of habit in this family, from perennial herbs to erect or twining shrubs to even trees. One thing that is quite common among members of this group is milky latex. So in this photo, a portion of the flower has been torn away, it looks like, and we can see the milky latex escaping from that tear. So for the leaves, we do have a bit more consistency within this family. So for the Apocynaceae, we usually see opposite leaves. They can be whorled, and sometimes they're alternate, but usually they're opposite. The leaves themselves are simple, usually with entire margins, and they are ex-stipulate, so no stipules. So in this image here, we see a whorled arrangement, and we can see an opposite leaf arrangement here. The flowers in the Apocynaceae are perfect and usually actinomorphic, and the petals themselves are often whorled. And a good example of this is shown in the picture on the right here. And whorled in this case, meaning that the petals kind of overlap each other, just like a pinwheel. One cool thing about this family is that it has undergone some recent taxonomic revision and now includes many members of what were formerly under the family Asclepiadaceae. And these members actually have quite specialized flowers, and we will get into that a little bit later. So for the more normal type flowers in the Apocynaceae, we see usually a tubular corolla, and we have, if you take a look at the floral formula here, a 5-meris flower. The sepals can be either connate or not. The corolla is connate, and we have epipetalous stamens denoted by this line under the corolla and the andrecium. And if you look at the gynoecium here, we have a syncarpous gynoecium with 2 carpels and a superior ovary. So in this image here, you can see the epipetalous stamens connected at the base of the filaments to the corolla right there. And we can also see what is known as a clavuncle, which is the united stigmas. So they are fused together to create this kind of larger stigmatic region called the clavuncle. And this image here is showing what is known as connivent anthers. So this isn't a term that you're expected to know, but connivent anthers just essentially means that they are really close together, but not actually fused. So the anthers here are convent around the gynoecium. We can see the gynoecium is the white portion in the center of the convent anthers. So now we're going to get into describing some of the more specialized flowers found in the Apocynaceae. But before we do that, we're going to have to talk some new floral terms. So these flowers have what is essentially an extrafloral whorl known as the corona. And the corona are petal-like appendages between the petals. So you can see the petals comprising the corolla here, and the corona is this spot up here. So the corona is composed of a hood, inside of which is a horn. So the horn is this structure that's projecting right here out of the hood. And what we see in the middle here is this structure known as the gynostegium, which is formed from the fusion of the anthers with the stigmatic region. So here is a nice close-up of the corona, and again you can see the hood, out of which is projecting the horn, and the centralmost part of the flower is the gynostegium. So to take a look at the floral formula real quick for the more specialized flowers found in the members formerly under the Asclepiadaceae, we see a floral formula that's not too different from the more normal type flowers, but rather than having epipetalous stamens here, we actually see fusion between the andrecium and the gynoecium, which of course is the gynostegium. So you're welcome to check out this really well labeled diagram on the right of flowers from the former Asclepiadaceae. And one cool thing to note in this diagram is that even though we have fusion of the anthers in the stigmatic region in the gynostegium, we actually have free styles here. So really interesting. Let's take a closer look at the gynostegium. So the pollen is actually aggregated into these waxy masses known as pollinia, and two adjacent pollinia are connected to a central corpusculum through these filamentous structures known as translators. One really cool thing about pollinia is that it appears to have evolved independently twice. So one other plant lineage that has pollinia is the orchids, so the family Orchidaceae, and they appear to have evolved pollinia totally independently. So really cool convergent evolution in this case. Moving on to the fruit in the Apocynaceae, we usually see follicles, but we do sometimes see berries or capsules. And the seeds themselves are usually comose, meaning they have tufts of soft hair, and these would aid in dispersal by wind once the seeds are dehisced from their follicles or capsules. So this here is a good example of a follicle found in the family, and it is currently dehiscing comose seeds. So Asclepias speciosa is the species shown here, and it is actually quite common in this area. And members of the genus Asclepias are actually really important to the life cycle of the monarch butterfly, interestingly enough. So to just review some of the common recognition characters for this family, the leaves are usually simple with entire margins and opposite leaf arrangement. And we have milky latex in most members. And we also have, remember, two kind of flower types. So in the more normal type flowers, they have a tubular corolla with whorled petals, so these slightly overlapping petals. And with the more specialized flowers found in genera such as Asclepias, we have a corona with the hood and the horn, and a gynostegium representing the fusion of the anthers with the stigmatic region. This is one of the most common members of the family found in Colorado, Apocynaceae androsamifolium, commonly known as dogbane. And I would say, there's a pretty good chance you'd run across this plant in almost any hike you take out in the foothills. Amsonia jonesii is only known from a couple of counties within Colorado, and if you take a look at the leaf arrangement, it is actually alternate rather than the opposite leaf arrangement that we normally see in the family. Here we have a beautiful Asclepias species with quite a distinct corona. We have this really bright hood, and the horn itself appears to either be absent or kind of tucked under the hood. Here we can see another Asclepias species in which we have opposite leaf arrangement. And if we take a look at the flowers, we see both a hood and a horn projecting out of the hood. Here's another nice up-close view of some Asclepias flowers. Just a little reminder, when they're kind of mature like this, you can see the petals are a little reflexed. So they're pointing downwards essentially, and they're covering the sepals. So it can kind of appear in this view that the sepals are absent, but they're kind of just being covered up by the reflexed petals here. Asclepias viridiflora here. This occurs mainly in the more eastern parts of the state, and this is an example of another species in which we do not have horns. So we have the hood here, but horns are absent. You can see a nice big gynostegium in the middle there. The final plant I'll talk about here is Sarcostemma crispum, and it is known from only a few counties in Colorado. And it is interesting because while it has a corona and a gynostegium in the middle here, it is in a totally different arrangement than we've seen in the Asclepias. So it doesn't necessarily have the hood and the horn that we see in the corona of members of the genus Asclepias.